Okay. Boom. Time for questions. Let's start doing them. We actually got a really good first question that I saw here earlier. Okay, so are there any situations where McCREE is preferred over Soldier? It's like, to me, that's a really fucking good question. It's very, very rare. It's extremely rare. It's rare to the point where, like, this is sort of the problem between McCREE and Soldier, and I've always said this. But it used to be the case where, like, these two guys operate on a fucking season. Okay? And if one gets buffed, then he goes up. If one gets nerfed, then he'll go down. And so what happened to McCREE was, if you remember, cast your minds all the way back, McCREE used to be able to fan the hammer, for example, and deal 70 damage. Like, it just did normal left-click damage on fan the hammer, so he used to explode tanks, and so he used to be used constantly for that. You needed to just land, like, 3 fan the hammer shots on anyone, pretty much, and you would win a fight. So fan the hammer used to be way more powerful, it got nerfed, then his range got heavily nerfed, and then he sort of vanished from the meta. You could also use to run 2 McCREEs, which was fucking ridiculous. Reinhardt barriers would just get chewed through, nothing you could do about it as McCREE fan the hammer, roll fan the hammer into a Reinhardt barrier, and you could fan the hammer, roll fan the hammer, and kill tanks, and it was kind of ridiculous. So McCREE steadily got nerfed out of the meta, while Soldier ended up getting buffed quite considerably. I think he went from 15 damage per shot to 20, and had his range tampered with, and also had his aim tampered with as well. And so he sort of steadily got buffed and buffed and buffed and buffed, and so he got buffed, he came up, McCREE got nerfed, he went down. And eventually I imagine what's going to happen is Soldier 76 is going to be nerfed and McCREE is going to be buffed, and so these two will kind of seesaw back and forth between each other. Where McCREE is very good is McCREE is very good against single dives, but against multiple dives he has weaknesses. McCREE's also very good at just protecting supports and protecting targets. He's also very good at dealing with Reinhardts. Just because it makes it, like, Reinhardt's a very hard time playing around McCREE, because if you think about what Reinhardt can do, Reinhardt can put a barrier up. McCREE can just walk up to him, flashbang over it, stun the Reinhardt. Reinhardt can charge. McCREE flashes the charge, he can't charge him, or he's stuck out of position. Anything that McCREE's trying to do, he's going to have, anytime Reinhardt's trying to do something, McCREE can really shut it down. So McCREE's actually very good at dealing with that. The thing that McCREE struggles with right now is that dive is very meta, and you think, oh, McCREE's great against dive. But if 2 targets especially dive McCREE, or if a Winston dives McCREE and does it properly, they can actually come out of the fight remarkably well. Well, against Soldier 76, for example, Soldier 76 can put a heal field down, he can sprint away, he can do a lot of other things, he can move away from it, and that's why you see more Soldier 76s being picked. So you'll generally see, like, Winston, TRACER, Genji, and then you'd usually have, like, 76 instead of another tank. You might have D.Va instead, and then you would have Lucio, Ana, or Zen. Like, this is usually the comp you're seeing, and it's purely because A, Soldier 76 combos better with stuff like Ana, and just has a better ultimate in general. McCREE's getting slight buff to that, which will make a difference. I'm sure there'll be a question about it later, and we'll talk about it later. And also, Soldier 76 is just better at surviving these total lives, and can put down a heal field that keeps his allies alive a little bit better. So he's just more utility as well. So yeah, that's part of why McCREE's sort of struggling at the moment. If he does get buffed, or if Soldier does get nerfed, then McCREE's still going to be very, very functional. I imagine what I am expecting to see maybe at some point is McCREE's range just a little bit bumped up. Not hugely. That or reducing how much the drop-off happens. So the way the drop-off works right now is that, you know, as you get further and further away, it sort of drops, and then it's just like an S-curve. Terrible line by me. So it sort of works like this. Okay, so this is min damage, this is max. And then at a certain point it starts dropping, and then at a certain point it will stop dropping again to range out the damage. And what I suspect to see is either a rightward shift, where this comes more to over here, or alternatively, I would see a squashing effect, where this just does not drop quite so far. And so he's a little bit more viable at medium to long range. Let's see. So McCREE is less of a high ground cool man than Soldier? Yes, absolutely. McCREE's like very good at being a high ground cool man if he's relatively near targets. He's very good at being high ground cool man if he's got Deadeye, because Deadeye does not care about damage drop off. So if there is a high ground position that you can take and you could just stay up there and be nice and safe, then sure, he works quite nicely. If you are all 6 of you stood on the high ground and the enemy team jump into you, then you can actually hold that very nicely with McCREE. But I'd say that you can do equally the same with Soldier by putting down a heal field. It's just, you know, you're still stopping damage just by one is stunning a target, one is healing, and you are still contributing damage. You are still contributing more damage as Soldier, therefore you're better on high ground. In terms of just being solo up on high ground, Soldier is far fucking better. If you see a McCREE just alone on high ground and you just jump him with a couple of people, you can generally win that. And if you speak to Genji players, what I would say is this. Like, the Genji versus McCREE duel is actually a weird one. So Genji and McGriff. Okay? So at low rank, go call it LR, Genji will probably win. No, sorry, other way around. Oh, at low rank, Genji probably loses, McCREE wins. It's so much easier just to land a flashbang, right click, you win. At sort of, I would say like Diamond, the balance of this actually starts to get more 50-50. Because A, the Genjis are playing better, B, they're anticipating the McCREE's moves a lot better, and C, like, even though the McCREE skill's gone up, the McCREE skill has not risen to the point where he can reliably left-click the Genji to death without also getting past deflect, without anticipating deflect properly, without anticipating the damage the Genji does. So I'd say like Diamond-ish, you start getting 50-50, and then at high rank, this honestly starts getting really screwy, and I would say this is more like 70-30. Where the Genji starts just outplaying the McCREE, because the Genji just has way more tools, and so it just gets very hard for the McCREE to do it. But the McCREE starts winning a lot more at sort of medium range and starts landing headshots and getting more value outside of just close range dueling. Is the big thing. Why McCREE and TRACER so sexy? Because Overwatch shows a lot of idealized bodies and figures, and I doubt you'll have true ugliness in a video game, which I'm fine with. I have enough true ugliness every time I look in the mirror in the morning, so yeah. That McCREE is meant to be a dashing rogue. A dashing rascal of a man. How long to wait for Flash in a Genji 1 vs 1? Depends on the Genji. Like, the way I try and do it is I try and read the Genji as I play against them. So, like, the first time you engage the Genji, just what I generally do is I try and land a shot. So I'll fire a couple of shots, and the Genji will usually then deflect. Then afterwards, you can just do what you like. Genji will usually retreat if he does that, but it's very rare that he will just, like, he will continue the engagement knowing that you have a flashbang up. It's extremely bad for him to do that. So what I'll try and do is you either have two options in my mind. You either try and flashbang instantly, which is risky, but if he does land, then he just generally dashes to cancel the deflect, and like, okay, you've just been dashed. Okay. That was going to happen anyway, so who cares? Or you try and save it and you just try and shoot him down. Honestly, learning just to shoot Genjis down is not a bad idea. The problem is that then they'll start escaping a lot more, and so you've got to be careful with that. So, yeah. But in general, I would say, you know, if you don't do it instantly, then just wait. Like, be patient. Just understand that your damage output is a lot better than the Genji's at close range, unless he lands like a right-click headshot. Like, if you land a left-click headshot, and you are quite likely to do so, or if you just land 3 body shots, you win. So, you know, if I tell you right now, and this is no word of a lie, you only have to hit Genji 3 times at close range. Doesn't that sound simple? Doesn't that sound easy? So yeah, if you hit him once, he's going to deflect, and then he's going to have to run. So if you just hit him 1 or 2 more times, then it's no problem. How much do you think the high noon change will actually affect the game? I think it'll be relatively minimal. It's always a bit hard to tell with stuff like this, though. I think that it's quite a subtle tweak that I think will have mostly a big impact against Tracer more than anything, just because you are getting 80 damage locked on that much faster. So it gives Tracer a lot less leeway when fighting into a high noon. For other characters, I don't think it makes too much of a difference. I really don't see it being a huge difference for them. I think it just makes Deadeye that much more reliable. I also think it makes Deadeye a lot better, where you just like you jump out, you go, it's high noon, and then you just instantly fire, and you can just get an instant wodge of damage onto people. But otherwise, I don't see it being hugely influential for Genji. For McCREE. Do you think Sombra is worth picking up as someone who plays loads of Tracer? They're very different. They are very, very different. They sound similar on paper because their weapon style is very similar, but so different in how they actually play. I was actually going to do a Sombra game today. Might do it tomorrow. Because it was, but the thing is, it almost went like too well, basically, where the Sombra was playing just a good Sombra. So I'm not sure how useful it will be. I think Sombra is just too different to Tracer to like be a really super good pickup. You are going to have to adjust to the fact that as Tracer, your primary objective is to get in, do a lot of damage, get a couple of kills, put a bomb on someone, bounce around, be a constant annoyance and distraction. As Sombra, your objective is much more get in, harass, build up an EMP, and win team fight. Like the playstyle is one is very, very flanker, harassment, kill, pick off solo targets oriented. Sombra is much more build up ultimates, get a huge amount of value out of your ultimate, and occasionally you'll pick off targets, but you'll generally be looking for the wounded targets that you can see through walls and stuff, hunting them down, finishing off those kills, getting good hacks off, that kind of stuff. It's much less direct engagement. And about a Tracer tactic when you blink forward and blink back while fighting an enemy to make them turn around, do you think this is a good tactic or isn't worth it to use 2 blinks? I think it isn't worth it to use 2 blinks. Why not? Instead of doing this cute thing, so the idea is this. This is Roadhog. Draw a big eye, big piggy snout, and eye. He's on the enemy team, so he's angry. Okay? An enemy Roadhog. And so we're playing Tracer. And so the idea behind it is that you blink. Actually, so you do this, you blink, and then you just instantly blink back. Or almost instantly. So you're forcing the Roadhog to turn around because he thinks, oh, the Tracer's gone behind me. And he turns around and then he realizes, oh, the Tracer's actually behind me. Instead of doing this, why not blink? Because you're in control of the blink, you will turn faster. Shoot him and then just blink back regardless. And then turn again and shoot him. And then blink over here. Turn again and shoot him. Like why not do that instead? That seems better to me than trying to use 2 blinks just to fool him for a split second longer when you can blink, turn, shoot, blink, turn, shoot, blink, turn, shoot, and you still have all 3 evasions. You can dodge all 3, or you can dodge 3 of his shots, then you can try and dodge the 4th if your blink comes back because you've been managing the blink cooldown a bit better. Because by the time you've used 3 blinks, one's usually come back up, so you can dodge his 4th shot, and then you can recall and avoid the hook. Or with now him getting 5 shots, it's a little bit trickier. My personal favorite is to just do a triangle. It's predictable, but it's efficient because you're turning less. And you can also generally anticipate it by you can start the turn here and do a sidestep blink. And so if you shooting here and then while you reload, you turn this way and then blink, you basically come out of the blink facing him and you just predictable pattern, but it works. Once the McCREE buff lands, assuming it's unchanged, how should I use Deadeye? Many for low health targets will still go for big whites, multiple kills. It depends. Like so many things in Overwatch, it depends on the situation. If you have like I said, if there's a Tracer Genji just diving you and you can get the Tracer, then it's still worth it. What I find with Deadeye is if you don't use it aggressively, you don't use it instantly, it is very rare that you're actually going to get kills with it, so you just use it as a zoning tool. The only time you really pick up a lot of kills with it is when like the enemy team is just badly out of position, then sure you can get a couple. A great trick is if you're behind a Reinhardt barrier or you have some form of safety, something to protect you like a Diva, and you see a Pharah just go up into the air, out into the middle of nowhere, just it's ha-nu, and Pharah just goes, ha, shit. And that's going to work even better. It's especially funny when, you know, it's ha-nu, and oh dearie me, that's a pharmacy in the sky. Bang, bang, dead, dead. Like, that works extremely well. Make sure you have something protecting you, because otherwise this goes boom, and then boom, free, a hat goes flying out the middle of nowhere. So yeah, you want to be a little bit careful about that, but I think that's going to work even better. I've always been a bit spotty on Deadeye. I've always treated Deadeye as more like, if I can get a single kill, right. So I've never been the best go-to person, I think, for Deadeye play. But in general, I would say that if you aren't, like, if you don't get a kill with it immediately, just don't expect to get too much off it. If you do have a Tracer or something that she's used a lot of blinks, then don't be afraid to pull out the Deadeye and just make sure that she can't do anything. You could try the Roadhog trick against the Genji with McCREE, throw a melee if he snaps reacts with deflect. I don't like mental tricks like this. Because, let me put it this way, when it stops working, when the Genjis get good at it, everyone who's been using that trick is going to be worse than the people who haven't. I'd rather just get good with the flash. Like, if I was going to say, Today, I am going to do or I am going to go and become the best McCREE in the world. I would not spend my time learning that trick. I would spend my time learning how to flashbang past deflect or in front of deflects. I think that works a lot better. And yeah. Maybe a Queenie host? I know Queenie auto-hosted me, and I know a couple of viewers came along with it, which is, like, I'm happy to be on Queenie's list. And it's always good to see the probes. The probes and the sticks. Will McCREE be extremely viable after his buff? No. Metabrit just hosted me. Thank you, Metabrit. In which case do you think Tracer is a better choice than Soldier 76? Soldier 76 is a better choice than Tracer. If you're playing an aggro dive, like Soldier 76 just can't move as fast as Tracer. If you're playing against a team with like 1 or 2 tanks, like if they have like 2 tanks, for example, you can generally get away with Tracer. If they start running a triple tank, then you'll notice your damage drop off is like you'll notice that you just stop getting killed. You're probably doing a lot of damage. You could probably get a couple of good pulse bombs, but you notice your overall output is a lot more limited. So that's when I'd start swapping to Soldier. I did it last night, for example, where we were going up against a team with triple tank, and I swapped off Tracer, even though I felt like I was doing okay on the Tracer. And like I was getting a lot of damage out, I just wasn't killing anything. And so that felt like a good decision point to swap to the Soldier, where I could just gun down the enemy team a lot easier. That actually worked quite nicely, and it helped me deal with their Tracer as well. I think that Tracer is a better choice. Like, the two aren't really comparable, sort of, it's a little bit of apples and oranges, where the two serve different functions in the team. But I'd say, like, against triple tank, that's when you swap off Tracer. Tracer is generally a hero that you start on, and then if she still continues to work, then you swap off it. I wouldn't be dissuaded too much by a McCREE, for example, but I would be dissuaded if I was playing Tracer if they had, like, McCREE Reaper, strangely enough, because that just suddenly creates this huge problem zone that I can't really fight in. If their McCREE is extremely good, that's also a good time to swap off the Tracer. Swapping onto Tracers is a little bit trickier. If they have a really good Diva, you might want to consider it, just because you can play around it a lot more. And other than that, like if they're playing like Diva, Reinhardt, Soldier, McCREE, or Soldier Genji maybe, even then that's still not like swapping onto Tracer is always a tricky one, I'd say. Like you've just got to go with your gut instinct to see if bring it out to see if it works. If it doesn't work, feels bad, man. If they got a Zarya as well, actually, Tracer works really nicely. Who would you prefer, Widow or McCREE? I feel like they're both super strong on getting picks, and Widow just seems to be better. More mobility, more range, more damage, better ult, no flash though. And Widow is worse at getting dived than McCREE is. This is the problem with Widow. Like, if the enemy team dives Widow, or just shoots Widow enough, hey, thank you, little girl.
Cheers, love. Happy to be in many less than 3.
Less than 3. I love those less than 3s. No, thank you, little girl. It's always appreciated. So the problem with like Widow is that if people are shooting at Widow, Widow can't shoot back, while if people are shooting at McCREE, McCREE can shoot back just fine. So they sort of operate in different circumstances. McCREE is a good pick. Like, if in a perfect world, if no one is shooting at you, Widowmaker is on paper and in game just the better choice. She's a bit less flexible in terms of like getting around people. She can move to good positions, but she can't really get around people very easily. Where McCREE can just sort of run through a Reinhardt barrier and not really have to worry about it, because the thing with Widow's damage is you have to bring the scope up to actually do damage, and that's going to slow you down, therefore people can shoot you very easily. What you want is to have no one shooting at you. If no one's poking at you, then technically yes, Widowmaker is better. I mean, it used to be the case where Ana was just better than McCREE as well, because Ana dealt 80 damage a shot, McCREE does 70. Ana could deal 80 damage across all ranges, had self-healing, had a stun, and had a better ultimate as well. So Ana was literally a better McCREE. Now it's sort of changed to where Ana's DPS is a bit lower, so, well, actually a lot lower, so she's going to struggle. Say McCREE's just better for raw damage output, and that's where McCREE excels, and in realistic terms, Widowmaker's going to get focused. Widowmaker's going to get shot at. And when Widowmaker starts getting shot at, it becomes that much harder to shoot back. If there's a Reinhardt in the way or something, you can't really deal with it, while McCREE can actually handle those. I picked up Ana recently and I'm trying to figure out the best times to hand back and when to get in amongst my team. Get in amongst your team if people are diving on you. Get in amongst your team if they've all taken a lot of damage, just throw a grenade at the floor. Because if you try and throw a grenade into their backs, you'll just hit the back 2 people. Or someone, naturally the Lucio will just back up at high speed towards you, you'll just hit him. So don't be afraid to just run into the team and drop a grenade if everyone needs healing. If you are like, if like a Reinhardt's taking a hammering on the front line, don't be afraid to run up nearer to him and just pump healing directly into him just to make sure it lands. Otherwise, make sure you're hanging back if like the enemy team is just crashing into your front line. You want to have a little bit of space. In general, I'd say as Ana positioning 101. Like I've talked about this before, you generally want to have as many people as possible available line of sight, and then what you usually find is you'll start fights outside, and then you'll move in during team fights and stuff. You'll move more into your team just for the AoE healing, and then you might peel back as the fight's winding down, or you'll probably peel off more likely. At least what I try and do is peel off to the side so I can shoot the enemy team, and I find that works quite nicely. How would you nerf Tracer and why? Pulse Bomb. Nerf the Pulse Bomb charge rate. I think is the logical place to start and go from there. I think our Pulse Bomb builds too fast at the moment, and it's just a bit of a problem. She's never been nerfed, she's never been buffed, aside from general nerfs, and even the general nerf to our Pulse Bomb charge rate didn't feel like it was huge. I think it's an easy ultimate to build, it's an easy ultimate to get into position to build. There are very, very few chances to punish Tracers who are out of position. She's kind of like Sombra in that regard, where if you've noticed you've tried to punish a Sombra for doing anything, you can't because she just translocates. You need something to just burst her. Tracer's exactly the same. So as long as she has recall, she can play around it. The other way that they could go is they could increase recall down. That way, if you break recall, if you make her use of recall, there's more of a time to actually punish the Tracer. But I think Pulse Bomb is where they'll start. When staring down a deflecting Genji, is it better to cancel the ult and flashbang as someone suggested, or try and get him with the ult before he dashes? What's the delay between Genji's deflect animation ending, and therefore me acting and being able to attack? I believe the timing of it is pretty spot on. Like the animation will just finish. It doesn't have like a sheathing animation or anything, it's just, you have the animation where he's doing all this ninja, whoa, 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 and then it's gone. You get used to the timing internally. A good response to this is check your health pool. So if Genji's in front of you and he's doing his deflect, and he has to then, like, you have more than 50 hit points, then just fucking wait. If he dashes, then you just turn around and shoot him. If he sword cuts, then you lose, but you have enough time for the, like, there's a brief period of time as the deflect ends before Genji can take an attack. So just shoot him and just be quick on the draw. And yeah, go with that. I'd say cancelling the ultimate isn't worth it, especially because you might be able to get someone else. Just remember, I believe Deadeye shoots right to left, so it goes do. So if there's a target on the right, just try and nail that first. I believe that's how it works, so that's how I remember it working. You just cross. So yeah. It's tricky. I'd say like cancelling and trying to flashbang, that could go even worse. And it's just instant value. Like that, I think used to be viable back when you could like cancel the ultimate and get charged back, but not worth it now. Remember that? Remember you could cancel Deadeyes and you would just have people doing zoning Deadeyes all the time. McCREE is in this weird spot where he's not super long range and he's not short range either. I'd say he's pretty good at short range. Like right click can kill pretty much anything. I will say this, I've said this before and I'll say it again, do not feel bad about fanning the hammer. People will call you cheap for using it, but what the fuck ever. I would say it is very worth learning the Tracer headshot. It is somewhat worth learning Genji headshots, but in general, like I would not feel too bad about fanning Genjis. Tracers you should probably just headshot, just because it's cleaner. Takes less ammo, you can do more off the back of it. And it's honestly not that hard, you have more time than you would expect. The exception that I have is like if Tracer's jumped, for example, and I flash her, I will sometimes just like, depending on how far she is on her jump, I will sometimes go for fan the hammer. Or if she's on like on uneven ground and jumped, because I don't know exactly where her head's gonna land. And I'd rather just get the kill than let her recall. Because if she recalls and you don't have flashbang, she can probably win that. McCREE is more fun than Tracer. McCREE's more fun than Soldier. I would probably agree with that. But that's sort of a taste thing. Apart from aggressive transcendence, what situations are good to use Deadeye? Using Deadeye against transcendence in general is actually really good. So if you fire a grav and they transcendence it, like Deadeyeing is perfectly fine. Worst case, you break the barrier for Reinhardt. Best case, you kill people. So in general, like, Transcendences are pretty good. Deadeye is also just very strong against Dragon Blades, especially if, like, you're in this kind of setup where, like, this is your front line, these are your supports, and this is you. So you've ended up away from the supports. If you use Deadeye and Genji goes in, Genji cannot do anything. He has to turn and deflect, and then he can't do anything anymore. It's a very, very powerful ability in terms of getting rid of Dragon Blade. Be very careful about using it against Soldier 76. Also very, very strong against like stuff like Pharmacy. Like I said, if you see a Pharah launch into the air, and especially if she's away from cover, firing Deadeye off and just killing the Pharahs, to me, a perfectly fine trade. Like, Deadeye is not a core part of McCree's kit. I've explained this before and I'll explain it again. Imagine if you're making an RPG. Imagine, like, Overwatch as an RPG, very fittingly, considering Matt Mercer. And, like, you put points, so you have, like, 10 character points. You have your, like, ultimate and then core, just for simplicity's sake. McCree put, like, 2 points in ultimate and 8 in core. You know, his ultimate is just a tiny part of his kit, but most of the other stuff, well, Sombra, for example, put, like, 9 in ultimate and 1. So, yeah, McCree does not really give a shit too much about his ultimate. At least I don't. Zeta's apparently hosting us. Thank you, Zeta. D.Va can eat McCree ult, but her defense matrix can run up before the ult ends. As D.Va, how do you counter Deadeye as McCree? How do you deal with the D.Va defense matrix? You kind of answered it in that you just wait. And if she blows all of her defense matrix, I'd say that's an acceptable trade. Making her burn through defense matrix. What I'll try and do generally, and I've done this as Soldier quite a lot as well, is I'll generally just like empty a clip into D.Va. Just to make her defense matrix as much of it as possible, then I'll ult, because then she can only block like a second of it. What you try and do once your defense matrix is depleted or quite low is you bring it down, and then you try and anticipate the Deadeye when it's going to fire. So you try and guess, like, okay, he's held on to it for this long, and then try and just block as much as you can. Like, you've just got to guess, basically. But the idea behind D.Va defense matrixing at a high noon isn't necessarily to block the high noon, it's to stop the high noon going off for a period of time, so that either A, McCree can be killed, or B, people get into cover. If the entire defense matrix is burned through and people are still out there, that's their own fault. Like, they should just get out of line of sight or kill him. Seen enough McCree dancing for now. Let's change it. Go over here. Let's go over here. Nice. Perfect skin for this as well. Austin. Such a good dog. I'm a natural Zarya and Tracer player, with tracking being my best skill. However, I'm a terrible Soldier, but a better McCree. Can you explain why that's the case? Your tracking might not be as good as you think it is. Is the brutally honest answer? No, is the brutally honest answer. If you consider engagement ranges, Tracer and Zarya, like, we've gone thick. We've gone thick all of a sudden. Tracer and Zarya engage at, like, super close, while Soldier engages at super long, like medium to long. And so you're naturally going to have a harder time just tracking. So your accuracy is going to naturally be lower. I'd say that McCree is just... McCree, you might be engaging at closer ranges as well. Maybe it could be it, or maybe you were overthinking Soldier aim. Maybe you aren't spray firing enough. Maybe you're spray firing too much. Could also be a problem. Whereas McCree, you aren't like thinking about, oh, how's my spray affecting my shots, and that kind of stuff. So that could also be it. Maybe you are a better hit scan player than you thought you were. Maybe you're better at snap aim than you expect, and you just don't play enough of it. Who knows? As McCree or well as Ana, when Genji goes above or below you, above you, and there's no peel, what is the best course of action? So when there's no peel and it's like a Genji goes above, like if you mean he just goes straight into the air and I'm playing Ana and I know he's going to drop on me, I just fucking fire a sleep dart at him. That usually works pretty well. I mean, if he's above you as well, like, keep in mind that Flashbang is an AoE. And you can actually, like, if you throw it and it explodes in front of deflect, then it still stuns the Genji. It's why the floor block works. So, say this is Genji. Let's say this is McCree. Okay. If Genji deflects and McCree throws a flashbang at the floor, Genji still gets stunned. and it frustrates the shit out of the Genji. But you got to remember, Genji deflect isn't like on the model. It's like a Reinhardt barrier in front of him. And it's like a big rectangle that's actually quite high up. So if you understand the mechanics of how the Genji like deflect works, where if you have Genji, okay, so it's Genji. The way that deflect actually works is it is a screen wall in front of him, where anything that hits that wall gets bounced off. So if you land the flashbang in front of him, you can actually stun him through it. Otherwise, if there's no peel, like try and move towards the peel. Try and move towards other people so that they can help you. Try and cuddle in under a Reinhardt is always good advice. So if someone's, you know, this is generally true. If someone's diving you and you can get near a Reinhardt, they will stop diving you because Reinhardt does a lot of damage in close range that can't really be avoided. As McCREE, like in general, just try and land a couple of shots on him. And if you're good enough at McCREE, one versus one a Genji, just becomes a matter of like, can you land the shots before he can land his, and can you force out the deflect? If you force out the deflect, can you then get the flashbang? And it's more up to the Genji to try and anticipate you than you to anticipate him. So if you play it like in a very stable way where you just shoot him to death, that probably works a lot better than just trying anything overly fancy with a flashbang. Like that's why I kind of try and rely on left clicking Genjis to death, is because my logic is this. Let's make a chart. So say deflect tick, deflect X, and deflect no versus flashbang tick, flashbang X, and FB no. Okay, let's use charts. Charts! It's like being at school. So this is like the tick means that the ability worked. So this is if the deflect comes out at the correct time to catch the flashbang. So that's like an NA for this one. Then what is the result? And we'll use M to denote that McCREE wins, and we'll use G to denote that Genji wins. So if you use a flashbang and the deflect comes out at the correct time, then Genji wins. Like that's good for the Genji. If you use a flashbang and deflect comes out at the wrong time, that's good for McCREE. That's good for McCREE. If you do not use a flashbang and the deflect comes out at the right time, that's still good for the McCREE. If you don't use a flashbang, there's no deflect. Honestly, it's kind of even for both. We'll put a 50-50 over here. And if there's no deflect, then again, 50-50. It just comes down to who can aim better. If you use no flashbang, deflect comes out at the wrong time, that's good for McCREE. If you use no flashbang and there's still no deflect, then you still haven't wasted the time. Or the deflect comes out at the wrong time, that's extremely good for the McCREE. And honestly, like this is still good for the McCREE because you haven't used the flashbang, so he's deflected anyway. And you can see in the instances, or let me actually get rid of this one to balance this out. I'd say like this then becomes 50 by our internal logic. And so you can see through the chart that flashbang is a gamble, but it's where you can hand Genji a big advantage, where you can just get an easy as hell dash and probably a good follow-up right click as well. You do get hit by that. Well, if you don't use the flashbang, then you have pretty good odds. If you get the flashbang wrong, that should not be a McCREE. It should be a G. Sure, there's people shouting. Like, this is risky. If you fuck up the flashbang, suddenly it's suddenly gone very, very bad. And if you don't use the flashbang at all, you have a lot of ways around it. And if he does deflect, then you can easily transition into just getting to this situation here and treating it like these. So I like to hold on to the flashbang. I think a lot of, especially at lower ranks, I imagine a lot of Genjis are very eager to press the deflect button, and honestly, just bide your time. Bide your time. I think that'll do for now, because I'm actually aware that we've been going quite long. So thank you guys for watching to the end. If you ask questions, then I'm sorry. I've been going quite a long time, and there we go. Thank you for watching to the end. Anyway, if you want to submit footage for coaching, there it is on the screen, but I'll read it out to you anyway. If you submit it to oemreviews@gmail.com, include the hero name and the rank in the title. Also include if you're a Twitch sub or not. Twitch subs get a little bit of extra priority. Not immensely, but if I'm deciding between two very similar videos, I'll generally pick the sub. I believe this person isn't a sub. But still. No, he might be, actually. Yeah, he is. He is a sub. Babodia. Beautiful. So thank you for watching to the end. Do come by and watch us live as well, 10 p.m. GMT, Fridays and Saturdays. I also stream other nights as well, 10 p.m. GMT, Thursday to Monday. So that's just playing ranked as well, having a good time. Feel free to ask questions there as well. Otherwise, yeah, it's been good having you here. It's been good having everyone watching. Hopefully you guys on YouTube have enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys live have enjoyed it and I've answered a couple of questions. And yeah, it's been good. Thank you for watching to the end. Toodles. Boom, YouTube's gone. Oh, right. I like how Tracer starts good and turns to complete shit. It's